Hi friends, Daria Miyeko Marinelli here to talk to you about a favorite and formidable topic, writing routines. By the end of this video, we'll have covered the basics, finding your why, making time, designing space, and building a project. That said, I'm a big fan of finding the writing routine that works best for you, being open to the fact that your writing routine may change over time or dependent on the project, and that you might have to experiment a lot to figure out what's yours. So let's start with the basics. At the most basic level, a routine is a series of repetitive actions. It's a habit. Given that, at its most basic level, a writing routine is getting into the habit of writing. It's making the time to sit down with some sort of consistency. To nerd out for a second, neuroscience talks about the power of habit lying in its repetition. Anytime we do something, we connect a series of neural pathways. Creativity is often seen as the connection of two previously unrelated thoughts, ideas, or neural pathways. The more we repeatedly do something, the more ingrained that specific combination of neural pathways becomes. That it actually becomes like a groove in your brain. And so in theory, because the groove gets made, it becomes easier to do that thing. So when you make a habit of writing, you're actually making it easier to sit down and write in the future. So the power of the routine is simplifying, streamlining, and strengthening those muscles in your brain to make it easiest to get your butt in the seat, get that pen to the paper, and your brain to the project. I'm assuming you're watching this because you want to develop your writing practice. So let's go ahead and dive into how you design your big why, the time, the space, and the project of your writing routine. Let's start with finding your why. Before we try figuring out what's best for you and your writing routine, let's start with why. Why do you write? Why are you writing now? What are you willing to sacrifice to be a writer? Let the development of your routine and the type of routine you build be connected to your big why. So let's take a moment and do an exercise called the 5 whys. So to start, write down your personal answer to why do you write? Go ahead, hit pause if you need a minute, but actually write it down. Like, you can hit pause, I'll be here, but write it down. Got it? Great. Now let's ask ourselves why to that answer. So for example, I wrote down, I write because it feels like the best way I can contribute to the world. That's my why 1. Now, let me ask why again. Why does that feel like the best way I can contribute to the world? Write down that answer. That's my why 2. Again, hit pause if you need. I'll be here. So my why 2 is because I love words and I love being in community. So now I'd ask why to that? Why do I love words? Why do I love being in community? And that'll be my why 3. Write down that answer. And then ask why of that. And ask why of that until you have a total of 5 whys. Yep, really. Pause me, write it down, but work on that. I'll be here. Cool. Welcome back. So it's whys all the way down. That might have gotten pretty deep, but all of those whys are your whys. Gussy them up, reframe them, put them on a wall somewhere. But remember, that is why you write. It can change. It'll probably change over time. But if you can keep it as a reminder as why you're doing this terrible, painful thing instead of hanging out with your friends or doing something fun or whatever you want, if you have that reminder somewhere visual, I have it up in my wall in my office, remember why you write. I think it makes it more likely to reconnect you to that deeper thing that is writing and make it more likely that you'll sit down and do your writing. So great. Now that you know why you write, let's figure out how to make the time. The truth is, we live in a capitalist society, and there's always going to be many more and flashier things to do besides writing. None of the solutions I have for making the time to write are flashy, enjoyable, or sexy, but here's my 3 tips for making the time. 1, be a researcher of yourself. 2, embrace discomfort. And 3, set a timer or make a promise. So what does it mean to be a researcher of yourself? You know yourself best. When in the day do you think it would be best for you to write? When is your energy most conducive or most electric for writing? When does your schedule allow for it? Try as many ways and different times as you need to find out when it would be best for you to write, and take some notes. Start tracking the time, the length, and the quality of your writing sessions. Are there specific days of the week, specific times of each day? Are there different mindsets in which you write best? Be an explorer. The best way for me is to find patterns through data. Start collecting the data of your writing successes and also, more importantly, your failures. Learn from the misses and write them down. Slowly but surely, you'll discover 1,000 times in ways that don't work. Trust me, I've been there, I've done it. And hopefully through those, you'll find the times that do. Number 2, embrace discomfort. There's never going to be a perfect time to write. There are always emails to send, people to make smile, houses to get tidy, and other far, far easier things to do. In his book, 4,000 Weeks, Oliver Burkeman really dives into the fact and says that the only way we can do our most important work is by accepting that we're never going to get everything else done. Not even you or me can get it all done, even though we're very special writers. By aiming to embrace discomfort and our imperfections, we're actually often asked to make trade-offs. And while these trade-offs can be uncomfortable or disappointing, or failing by not doing it all, we can actually release a lot of our mental load. And instead of wanting to get everything perfect to write, we just let ourselves sit down and do the most important thing, which is writing. And even in the act of writing, to get a little fractal on you, we also need to embrace imperfection and reality. That the words on the page, as we get them down, they might not actually match or totally align to the grandiose idea or the most perfect way we had it in our head. But that's okay. Just get it down and keep getting it down, and don't let yourself get stuck in the first sentence not being exactly perfect. Let's instead embrace reality, as imperfect as it is. Lastly, in the spirit of eschewing perfection and for the embrace of reality, see Mary Oliver's You Do Not Have to Be Good in Wild Geese. I also want you to let go of the myth that you have to write every day. Self-imposed shame and guilt because you do not write daily is not going to help you write tomorrow or incentivize yourself to come to the desk. The more you write, the more you write. Writing it all counts. I say this to you as much as I say it to myself. So let's let go of the notion of how we should be and instead celebrate who we are and the things and the time we can give to our writing. Number 3, set a timer or make a promise. A lot of words can happen in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So what if you set a timer and sees what happens? A lot of words might happen, no words might happen, but some big thinking might occur. That's okay too. Novelist Haruki Murakami says he does his best work by walking. The brilliant shower idea is also real. I've been there. So if you sat down and made time for your writing or thinking, that counts. Maybe you did 10 minutes today, maybe tomorrow you can do 11, or the day after tomorrow. Letting go of that every day you need to write thing. Setting a timer or making a promise about the time you're going to write or ponder sets boundaries to your work and gives you a sense of accomplishment. 10 minutes? Check. If nothing happened, you sat at your desk, did nothing else, and wrote or thought. Good job. Now do it again, whether that's tomorrow or the day after or whenever it fits into your schedule. Let's set little boundaries and little pockets for writing as much as we can get to and have the time to do it. Okay, now that I've diatribed onto time and making the time, let's go on to designing your space. What do I mean by designing your space? Crystals, incense, photos of your cat? Sure, but this is actually more about your mental space, your mindset. In designing your space, I offer the following. Locate yourself, breathe and embody, develop a starting ritual, set goals, write, and then put your pen down. Locate yourself. It helps to write in a place that you love. That place may be loud or quiet, home or away from home and its distractions. Whatever it is, find it. And finding it may take some time. Embrace trial and error and failure from before. And through taking notes, missteps, wasted writing sessions, you're slowly going to figure out where and what you need to do your best work. I will not tell you the countless number of coffee bars I have gone to thinking it's the perfect writing time and the barista loves heavy music or there's a really intense meeting going on. It just takes time, but feel free to experiment, and that is just part of your journey. Next step, breathe and embody. Once you've found the perfect spot and the perfect time, take a few breaths, center, ground yourself. The work is spiritual, trust it. Trust yourself and take a little time to sink into your body. Lisa Lamont taught me this exercise recently, which is connect to the top, connect to the above, connect outward, and then ground down. with 3 breaths. And I offer that to you as a way to kind of just center and breathe in and be with yourself. I want to hear about how that went in the coffee shop, but I support you all the same. After you've taken a deep breath, it's time to start. And here I would recommend developing a starting ritual. Dealer's choice here, but figure out what you'd like to do to signal that now we're writing. Perhaps it's lighting a candle, closing your door, putting on some deep focused music, Spotify playlists, can't recommend it enough. But how can you shift the tone, quiet your mind, and step into that psychic, sacred writing space that you want to be doing your best work in? Now that you've stepped into the psychic space of writing, I'd encourage you to start your session by setting a goal. That might be a time-based goal or a project-based goal. It's really up to you. So for time-based, how long might you write? Go back to setting that little timer. If this session is process-driven, is there an accomplished task or some amount of thing that you'd like to have done at the end of it? If you're setting a more task-based goal, I'd prefer you to the SMART system. Is that goal specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-sensitive? And again, please note, the way you figure out if it's realistic is through setting an unrealistic goal and slowly learning. The point is not 100% success, but always learning and refining. The last thing I would say in terms of goal setting is that know your boundaries and give yourself permission to rest. Ponder, lie on the floor, take a walk outside the coffee shop, whatever you need to do to regenerate and recharge, do it. Writing is a heavy mental workload, and you're going to push yourself, but also know your limits and be gentle with yourself as you go. Awesome. So now that you've found a place, you've taken a deep breath, you've developed your starting ritual, and you've set a goal for your writing session, now it's time to write. Good luck. Bon voyage. You just got to do it. And then after that amazing, brilliant, or not so brilliant, but learning experience writing session, I like to sort of wrap up or set a ritual to closing down and putting the pen down. So as you run out of time, steam, energy, or patience, how can you celebrate your wins and make a quick note of something that went really well, and then set the table for tomorrow? Novelist Dan Brown talks about setting the table or finishing your previous writing session with an intention or milestone for the session ahead. That can either be a time-based goal or a product-based goal, as we talked about before. I'd also suggest visualizing your next writing session. Great athletes visualize, so why not us? How can you, the night before, earlier in the day, or in this very moment as you finish your writing session, imagine the next time that you're going to write? Where are you? What time of day is it? What are you thinking about? What are you going to do? By building those neural pathways and imagining that next moment, it actually makes it easier to come to the desk or the coffee shop in the next moment and sit down and ignore the 1,000 other things that need to happen in life's demands, and instead just write. The last thing I might offer in your closing down ritual is to create one takeaway. What's something you learned about yourself, the project, or your writing process during this session? Is there a place that you can write that down so that when you're stuck or doubting yourself, you can revisit it and feel fortified about all the things you've learned? Give it a try. And then close out your writing session, pens down, laptops closed, and enjoy your life. Now that we've talked about finding your why, making the time, designing a space and experience for writing, let's talk about what you're actually doing during that writing bit. You might just be writing to write or explore or discover. Amazing. But if you're writing with the aim to finish a specific project like a play or a screenplay, here's my personal list or checklist of questions I ask myself to help me get it done. First question, what do I want to get accomplished by when? This is the big picture goal. I try to keep it SMART, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. But what is the thing, and by what date and time do I want to get it done? Once I know that, I ask myself, what are the smaller internal deadlines I can meet? Finish play by X date can seem really intimidating. So I try to break it into smaller first act, outline, smaller deliverables within the play that are going to make this project a little more manageable and approachable. I'd also like to share with you within this the psychology of small chunks. Scientific studies point out that we get a hit of dopamine, which is that sparkly, feel-good brain drug, anytime we finish something. The fun part of this is the amount of dopamine does not actually directly correlate to the size or difficulty of the task. That's why clicking off daily mantras in my to-do list every morning feels fantastic, even though I've done nothing. So good. So when you break a big writing project into small tasks, it's not only going to make it feel more manageable and give you a plan of what to do, it's actually going to release more dopamine into your system, making the writing more fun. So make small tasks and complete them. It's going to feel good. After that, I asked myself, what is actually going to need to get delivered for each of those small self-imposed deadlines? Be as specific as you can on those internal deadlines you've just made. What is the deadline and what is the bare minimum of what needs to happen to check that off? After you look at that, ask yourself, how long are the smaller deliverables going to take? I want to warn you guys here about Parkinson's law, which is that things expand the time allotted for them. So at some point, you might just need to ship something or push it through so you can hit that deadline and move to the other one, even if it's not at that perfect quality that you would love. It's just a first draft. You can always come back to it, but let's try to get it done. And then lastly, once you have this plan of what you're going to do and by when and what it means and what the bare minimum is, you're going to ask yourself, when am I finding the time to do this? And that's when I'd like to refer you back to that making time part of the video. And then invariably, you might realize that you don't have enough time or you won't be able to complete this plan exactly as you've imagined. Great, that's okay. We all are there. And that's the moment you're going to ask yourself, am I willing to change the deadline? Am I willing to change or alter my standards of what this project is? Or are there more trade-offs or sacrifices that I want to make for my writing in this project? As always, writing and completing a project is a battle in accepting imperfection and the chaos of writing, and despite it being there, still standing when the smoke clears. It's okay if part of your writing time is making a writing plan and then revising the writing plan and revising the revision of your writing plan into infinity. It happens. That's how I write. But once you have the path or the start of the path, you know where you're going. It's time to get to it. As playwrights, we're often working on a play or project, but sometimes we're not. Sometimes we need a writing routine that's more process-based. Maybe you've just finished a project or let one go, or you're in search of the true writer's routine, i.e. writing every day, weekend, full moon, whatever you want. So here's how you tap into your why and take the opportunity to fill your well and find that process-based writing routine. When there's no deadline, external or internally imposed looming, I suggest truly letting yourself free write, doodle, dance, rest, read for fun, go for a walk, be free. It's important to fill your well and nourish who you are, so you have experiences and the emotion to draw from when you do your writing. We need to live to bring truth to our pages. If this feels too daunting or a little too nebulous, I'd say look at changing the qualitative nature of your writing practice. Ask yourself, what is your writing process like now? Whatever it is, it's beautiful, even if it's 0. And where would you like it to be? And how can you incrementally adjust where it is now to where you want it to be over time? If you want to write daily or write X blank minutes or hours in a blank, what are you doing now? And then how can you slowly break that up, sort of like the framework we did before, and slowly create that expansion over a set month, quarter, year to kind of arrive to the writing process that you'd like. After you've made the plan, how are you going to track this so you can measure progress and chart all of your successes and see the moments that you might be falling short or be falling a little bit behind that blueprint that you've made? And as always, revise, change the plan, keep making tracks, laying tracks, and then changing where they go to adjust to the reality where you are now. As you track it, ask yourself, what's getting in your way? How can you be honest about the things that are stopping you from writing, and then slowly chip away at those habits, thought patterns, barriers that are stopping you from making your writing habit? Is it prioritizing? Is it just closing a door? I encourage you to explore and figure that out. And lastly, as you're building this more process-based writing practice, how can you celebrate your wins? By celebrating your wins, you're releasing the dopamine and you're going to create that habit-forming neural pathway groups situation that you want to make writing happening. This kind of writing practice is where you really get to listen to what feels best to you and then follow it. Enjoy. And that's it. Writing is hard, weird, lonely, and messy. But it also can be joyous and a place where we find and make home. By focusing on your why, embracing discomfort, and listening to yourself, do I need a project or a process-based writing practice right now? I hope you can find, build, discover, and iterate always iteration, a writing practice that works best for you. I'm honored to be in the trenches with you all. I'm also always trying to get to the page more. So here's to setting off, writing, and building our writing practice. I wish you much luck, inspiration, patience, grace, and joy on your writing journey.